Hare Krishna. I've been requested to speak something on what Vyāsa-pūjā is about and its tradition. I've got about a dozen questions which I've received, and I'm going to answer them. I'll answer them relatively briefly so that we don't go into a lengthy class, but I hope that will give you a idea of just what the meaning of Vyāsa-pūjā is all about. So let's start by offering our obeisances to Śrīla Prabhupāda. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatsadesha Tarine. I was just trying to remember the verse I quoted when we had Vyāsa-pūjā, which was the Bhagavatam's offering to Śrīla Vyasadeva and Saraswati Devi. Devim Saraswati Vyāsam tato jayam muti dayat. But I forget how it starts. Okay. What's the origin of the tradition of writing Vyāsa-pūjā offerings? I don't know. I've not read about it. I've not seen any Vyāsa-pūjā offerings beyond Śrīla Prabhupāda's to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. I've not seen a Vyāsa-pūjā offering to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, to anybody, including Śrīla Vyasadeva. So the Vyāsa-pūjā is actually the worship. That we have tradition that goes back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had Vyāsa-pūjā performed to Lord Nityananda. So that included worship of the lotus feet and arti, kirtan, prasadam. There was, as far as I remember, no real lengthy glorification even there. If there was, it was probably between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda. I say probably because I don't remember. It's in Chaitanya Bhagavat. It's not in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, the offering, the writing is not there. Of course, the offering is there in that offering Pushpanjali. So that's there in Gopal Bhatta Goswami's, not Panjika, but his book on deity worship. He's writing about Pushpanjali. Similarly, Sanatana Goswami also writes about Pushpanjali. So it's an offering of flowers. And when you transform the flowers into words, or rather the words become the flowers. And words can be much more significant than flowers, because when you pick a rose and you take the petals and you offer the petals, it can be extremely heartfelt, but there's nothing like words. So the words in which a disciple offers to the spiritual master, and we'll talk about to whom it's meant to be offered, that then becomes equivalent to a Pushpanjali. And this Vyāsa-pūjā offering becomes an opportunity where devotees can really reveal their hearts, give their hearts. It's rare. It's rare that devotees are, not that they don't write, but that they're actually willing to give their hearts, or actually open their hearts. So, but if, in terms of tradition, I would equate the Vyāsa-pūjā offering with the Pushpanjali that is offered to revered personalities. And one can look to see whether Bhaktisanta Saraswati Thakur gave some instruction. Prabhupada did. But he, as far as Prabhupada said, this is the tradition. But how long it goes back and what is the origin, someone would really have to do research, which I've not done. Okay, and what is the purpose of that tradition? Well, I think I've spoken about the purpose. I've sort of made clear that this is the glorification is always there, but there's glorification begrudgingly done. Well, I know if I don't do it, then people are going to ask, why isn't your offering there, or Guru Maharaj isn't there? So I better write something that someone does out of duty, and something that someone really does out of love. So ultimately our movement is about love. Mamekam sharanam braja. Krishna says, give me your heart. So the purpose of that tradition is to give our heart to Krishna through the chain of disciplic succession. It's just like when we cook some bhoga and we make an offering. So how do we do the offering? Well, there's two ways of doing the offering. There's the way that Prabhupada taught, and there's the way that our tradition is, which is that you give to the deity of Krishna, and then it comes down from Krishna. The other, and generally, for instance, when you don't have deities, then you'll offer to your spiritual master, to Śrīla Prabhupāda, to predecessor acharyas. It goes through. So endlessly, Śrīla Prabhupāda emphasizes it, going through the chain of disciplic succession, up the chain of disciplic succession. So the purpose is for us to actually, just like we offer food, so now here's an opportunity to practice how we're offering our hearts, how we're offering ourselves. It's a fact that it's one thing when I write a letter to another person confidentially, and it's something else when that's public. Now, Śrīla Prabhupāda had the offerings read out in public. He was sitting on a Vyāsa-san, devotees read it. And in Śrīla Prabhupāda's time, and for a couple of decades after Prabhupāda's time, temple president orders Prabhupada Vyāsa-pūjās, and as many as he orders and pays for, that's how many he gets. Now a temple just gets 2 or 3 that's paid for by the BBT. So that's because, anyway, I'll just say why that's why it doesn't everybody get, because it's usually a on the occasion reading. Devotees go through some, and then it will be very rare that devotees would read these very expensive books, because they were extremely expensive, that they would actually read these books. They were just neglected. So that's why GBC thought that they would do it another way. So in any case, but the purpose is to give your heart, and We used to have, I remember when we were in Chicago, we used to have we thought also for the first couple of years that on Prabhupada's disappearance, you should have Vyāsa-pūjas as well, make offerings. And we used to have we used to have everybody in the temple room is crying. And that was bliss. That was very nice when you saw everybody crying. So it could be very, very emotional, and really opens other devotees' hearts. Of course, we're talking about 40 devotees. It's a little different when the atmosphere is there, and I'm well aware that there's also a difficulty in that, and I've always thought, why did Śrīla Prabhupāda take birth right after Janmashtami? It would be so easier to actually have a full day. Everybody's already dead anyway from Janmashtami, that now, unfortunately, we only have a half-day worship. But at the same time, for, devotees, Prabhupada's disciples or Prabhupada's grand disciples, there's 1 day, 2 day, 3 day big festivals. And for Prabhupada, we only have a half day. Part of it has to do with that it's coming after Janmashtami. So that's sort of the purpose, the Pushpanjali. Ai pranaya shalani pranaya pushtat aptaye. Who should we write an offering to? Śrīla Prabhupāda, our initiating guru, or śikṣā-guru, whoever you want to praise. And of course, I didn't mention that so much in the purpose, but it's about praising and glorification, just like we do Krishna. And whoever you want to praise, and whoever you want to share your heart with. So, Śrīla Prabhupāda, your initiating guru, are compulsory. You have to. Whether you feel it or not feel it, it's part of Vaidhi, it's part of the rules that Śrīla Prabhupāda wrote. There's only once I didn't write an offering to Śrīla Prabhupāda in 1 year in the last however long. So I've always written an offering. But ultimately, I don't think devotee is limited in any way. Maybe some Vaishnav or Vaishnavi, and on their appearance, you want to, it doesn't have to be a guru. On their appearance, you want to say something about how much you appreciate them and praise them, and you send them a letter. So that's welcome, because Vyāsa-pūjā, it's the representative of Vyāsa. Now the guru is the official representative of Vyāsa, but every Vaishnava is a representative of Vyāsa. If they don't represent Vyāsa, who do they represent? So they're all representatives of Vyasadeva. But these two, devotees should do. And I know here in Hungary, our Prabhupada Vyāsa-pūjā gets thinner and thinner and thinner. So many devotees who are here and who are here by the blessings of Śrīla Prabhupāda, because Prabhupada brought us Krishna consciousness, then we should always do our best to glorify. And possibly one of the reasons, I know that a good percentage of the offerings that I get, and a good percentage, I don't know, sometimes it sounds like it's a majority, but good percentage just means it's a healthy number, maybe 20, 30, say, I don't know what to write, or that it's so difficult for me to write. but actually Vaishnavas also should be writers, and that is part of the problem with writing Vyāsa-pūjā offerings, is that devotees don't write very much. And when they write, then they write a like or a dislike, or they're making a comment on Facebook, but they don't know how to compose. But devotees should. They should be in the practice of writing things. It's our family business. So, Śrīla Prabhupāda's grand disciples often find it easier, more natural, and more of a duty to write Vyāsa-pūjā offerings to the living initiating gurus than Śrīla Prabhupāda. Could you comment on that? Well, what can I say? I guess if I was to write a Vyāsa-pūjā offering to Rupa Goswami, I would have to think a little, but I don't know that it would be that much more difficult. It's just that we don't. We don't write a Vyāsa-pūjā offering to Vyasadeva either. In fact, we don't write a Vyāsa-pūjā offering to Krishna or Lord Chaitanya. So, if it's a duty, then do it out of duty. Śrīla Prabhupāda is the founder Acharya. So, there's one. There's only one, will be only one. There's no other founder Acharya for ISKCON than Śrīla Prabhupāda. Well, that means that it's something that, it's like, give the example of Jesus Christ's position. So there's only one person who began Christianity, and that's Jesus Christ. Everyone else will continue it. So, Śrīla Prabhupāda is the founder Acharya, and to write to him because he is the founder Acharya is one duty. To write to him to ensure his position as a founder Acharya is another. In other words, there are so many gurus in ISKCON, and as time goes on, there's going to be so many more. You don't have a duty to write to them. But you do have a duty to write to Prabhupada because he is the founder Acharya. Now, if you understand what the founder Acharya is, and we translated the founder Acharya book, right? That's by Rabindra Swarup. It was translated into Hungarian. I got 3 people here just looking at me. So you should all get it and read it. There's a book by Rabindra Swarup on what the founder Acharya means. It's a really, really excellent book. And if you really appreciate and understand, then it will be very natural, because you're, it's like Śrīla Prabhupāda cooked a meal and put it on the plate, and your guru brought you the meal. Who is most natural to give your appreciation to? The person who cooked it or the person who brought it? So that's how it goes. Śrīla Prabhupāda gave us Krishna consciousness and everything else that goes along with that. So if devotees, our principle is that you act out of duty, and in due course of time it will become more and more spontaneous. And it's just important, very often on Śrīla Prabhupāda's appearance, I always talk about this importance of devotees keeping Śrīla Prabhupāda in the center of their lives, in the center of their movement of appreciating Prabhupada. It will it is one of the most important things in our Krishna consciousness, along with chanting Hare Krishna and other activities. How important is it compared to so many important services devotees have? I don't know that that's a good question. I mean, you know, it's important. It's really once a year. All right, you've got so many important services, but once a year to spare the time from this, sleep a little less, eat a little less. Why are you comparing it with other services? Why not compare it to all the extra time that you have? Do a little less prajalpa, you know, spend a little less time on internet, and write a Vyāsa-pūjā offering. So there's time. All the time is not taken up by important services. Generally, devotees' important services encompass about 7-8 hours a day. So you can make time. Could you give some practical advice on when and how to start writing? Well, start with the end in mind, which means that so that you get it in time. And that's quite important. Don't expect a delay in the receipt of the Vyāsa-pūjā offerings to get a Vyāsa-pūjā offering looked at, edited, put in the books, etc. It all takes a certain period of time, and it's a given time that it's meant to come out, and we have to have it ready comfortably. So however long it takes, or you're going to take, if you're really going to get into it, then, you know, construct. For me, writing means structure. If you don't have a structure as to what you're going to write, then it really ends up being a lot of rambling on. It could be very good, but it could also be a lot of excessive time spent in editing, re-editing, rewriting. But if you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you've got bullet points of the whole thing written out, all your thoughts are very clear, that you revisit again, then filling that out and putting in quotes and other things becomes much, much easier. And you've got a Vyāsa-pūjā offering that makes sense, that, you know, is systematic. Makes sense means that it has a theme, and the theme goes through step by step by step from beginning to end. I would say that devotees do really well on Vyāsa-pūjā offerings. Yes. What is the suitable content of an offering and what is not? Is it just a glorification? May one reveal one's difficulties? No. Lack of faith, doubts. If it's appropriate to ask in an offering, what may one ask for? No, it's not a problem-solving task that, all right, write down your problems on a piece of paper and then it'll be easier. It should be praise or glorification of whoever the devotee is that one is glorifying. Reveal difficulty, well, reveal difficulty in a way that glorifies. In other words, that, you know, I had this such and such trouble, but by your grace, which manifests in such and such way, I was able to overcome it. Similarly with the lack of faith and doubts. But just to leave things hanging, that this is my problem, that's my problem, this is my problem, what's the point? So, you know, that's the type of thing that you do in a letter. It's not the type of thing that you do in a Vyāsa-pūjā. Is it appropriate to ask in an offering? If you can ask for certain things, as I mentioned before. This should be really an exchange of devotees' feelings, and if you know, asking for special mercy, asking for benediction, if it's nicely constructed and if it's tasteful, if the rasa is right, if the tattva is right, the rasa is right. So all these things have to be right. The mellow shouldn't be wrong. There should not be any rasabas in what's being wrote. Then things can come together. But that's something that devotees should know. What are the things that are appropriate, and what are the things that cause a conflict of mood or a conflict of mellows? I've had, you know, generally my practice in reading Vyāsa-pūjā offerings, I read a few myself. Actually, the ones I read, I've already heard before, and that's why I reread them. But usually it's something when, you know, I get a massage and somebody's reading. Well, what am I going to do when I get a massage? So it's a good opportunity. And Prabhupada used to write letters like that. So then I listen. Often it's Lakshman, and we've had many occasions where, you know, some of us started crying. I'm just going back to the fact that the things were so heartfelt, and in that circumstance, nothing was really lost. I'm not sleeping 95% of the time. Sometimes it happens. I'm fully attentive. And so devotees' offerings can be extremely potent and really inspire devotion also in others, which is also something that it does. The benefit of it happening in public or it being available in public is that it helps other people advancing. It helps in their guru shraddha, in their guru nishta. It sort of opens their eyes in a way that other people see. And now let me say that generally I'm very disappointed in the number of devotees who want to read Vyāsa-pūjā offerings to Śrīla Prabhupāda. We're sort of quite open-ended there. With mine in the past, we only had sort of 5 or 6, and then for a couple of years we stopped. But this year I want to make it possible for those devotees who want. We'll have some evening program at the farm or in Budapest, and devotees can come and do that. But why wouldn't devotees want to read out something that they wrote? And this thing that I'm shy, I'm sorry, that just, you know, it's like saying I'm shy to go on book distribution. Of course I'm shy. But what's that got to do with anything? Duty is duty, and therefore I should do that. What are topics I regard as unsuitable for an offering? I think I mentioned that. Sometimes it's difficult to draw a line as to what is shareable and what should remain out of public domain. International offerings for Śrīla Prabhupāda, both of them, they have very clear guidelines, part of which no criticism of ISKCON, devotees, no talking about any kind of party politics or anything like that. It's everything that glorifies the person which is meant to be glorified. And I'd rather say what should happen than what should not happen. It's just like a Bhagavatam class. What is the Bhagavatam class about? It's about the verse and the purport. Finished. It's not about you know, what's on your mind. It's not about what happened to you yesterday. It's not about how difficult something is, or the problems you had with some devotees, or who knows. It's about what's in front of you. So what's a Vyāsa-pūjā offering about? It's about the person who's in front of you and how you value what that person has done to you. I don't know, for somebody's birthday, do you go over and tell them your problems? Do you go over and criticize your neighbor? Or, I mean, that's not a birthday present. So that's not a birthday card. You know, write a birthday card. Happy birthday. You know, I really had this problem the other day. It's just, people don't do that. So yes, this is also, the opportunity is on the appearance day, although the actual worship is more significant than the day itself. We often feel unqualified and lost about what to say. If one is not versed in Shastra, can one still write an appropriate offering? Well, devotees should be versed to a certain extent in Shastra. I mean, we are a school. We're an educational institution. It's not just that our Bhakti College is the educational institution. ISKCON, MKT, Hanka is an educational institution. We're educating people. We have classes every day. The devotees have books. We got libraries. We're here for a reason. So one should be versed to a certain extent in Shastra, but one doesn't have to be a scholar. One doesn't have to be a big Brahmin, but one should, once again, what has this person done for me? How has this person helped me in my spiritual life? How do I just see that, yes, Krishna is acting through this person, manifesting his potencies. There's so many things that Vaishnavis do that are, so it's a matter of appreciation. And that's why I say that you can write a letter to anybody, because everybody does such wonderful things. Krishna manifests through every Vaishnava. So that's what Vaishnava means. Vaishnava is someone in whose heart Krishna sits and Krishna manifests his potencies and energies. So everyone should be glorifiable. I think that the real issue of being lost about what to say is that just devotees are not in the practice or in the habit of writing, and they should. But about what to say, if you're lost as to what to say about Guru, about Śrīla Prabhupāda, don't you see? Can't you say what you see? And if you don't see anything, then how do we advance? Yasya prasada, Bhagavat prasada, yasya aprasada, sakshat hari tvena samasta. Do I see sakshat hari, or is it just something I sing in the morning? So if it's sakshat hari, then I should be able to write something about Hari, and if someone is as good as Hari, so I have difficulty in that someone's lost. Whether someone has a close relationship with their guru or distant, most devotees, grand disciples, never even saw Śrīla Prabhupāda aside from videos, but still there's a lot to say. And even if you're repeating what you're saying, it doesn't matter. It's a matter of appreciating what it is that you say. But if someone prays to Krishna, Krishna will help. Dadami buddhi yogam tam jena mam upayantiti. Krishna will give the intelligence. Krishna will help us. Dear Krishna, please help me glorify Śrīla Prabhupāda. Krishna will definitely help you, because that's also Krishna's pleasure. What if someone finds themselves uncomfortable in sharing their intimate feelings, realizations, experiences, or just details of a relationship very close to the heart on a public forum. Yeah, that's... if I say, well, then, you know, they should have, you know, write it as a separate offering, that will end up having two Vyāsa-pūjā books. One will be very small, that's for the public one, and one will be very large, where, you know, devotees want to keep it quiet to themselves. I don't know what to say. I don't have a solution. I can just say that we find ourselves uncomfortable in doing so many things. So, I don't know, we're uncomfortable in standing in the rain, you know, with a bull pulling you around Krishna Valley. So it's uncomfortable. You feel uncomfortable sitting all day long on a hard chair. You feel uncomfortable going on book distribution. There's so many uncomfortable things that we do. It's called tapasya. So tapo divyam putra kajena sattvam. So this is one of the uncomfortable things that we do. But there will be a limit. So, because Narottam Das Thakur says that apana bhajana kataya nahibo jata kata ihati haibo. So don't get too deep into your spiritual realizations, but to a certain degree, it's fine. To a certain degree, it's fine. Otherwise, one can write another Vyāsa-pūjā offering, which has that, and you can just send it as a letter. So write two. Don't just say, oh, then I'll just write that one, but write two. And just write, this is an addendum to the Vyāsa-pūjā offering I wrote before. How long is an offering supposed to? I don't know. Well, anyway, we had a Vyāsa-pūjā offering. I'm not going to mention a devotee's name. And if I remember right, it was like 13 pages. I don't know why they led it into the Vyāsa-pūjā. Usually, it's clear, they say 2,000, at least for the international, it's 2,000 words, and that's it. So, or 2,000 characters, sorry, not words. That would be 10 pages. So, which is, I don't know, how much is 2,000? A page, page and a half, something like that. So, yeah, one shouldn't go on and on and on. But 1 page, 2 pages, it's up to actually the Vyāsa-pūjā editors, because the bigger it is, also the more expensive it is, especially if more than one copy is being published. We don't do that anymore here. We only do one, so it's not that significant, but it's time to edit and go over offerings as well. But I would say that, you know, 3 pages is like a good max. What further advice can I give about what to write and what not to write? I think I sort of spoke about that. Any other comments? I found it very, very good. Sometimes a very good sadhana. Sometimes, you know, there are nitya and naimitika sadhanas. There are those that just happen occasionally and those that happen regularly. So japa is a daily sadhana. But Vyāsa-pūjā offering is only once a year. Sometimes I wish I would have put more time and energy into it and made it less although I rarely do that, made it less just dutiful, but actually something that really came through. So during the year, sometimes ideas come in my mind, so I immediately write it down. Generally speaking, I don't sit down and try and figure out what I'm going to write about. I've already got 1, 2, or 3 alternate themes. Sometimes the problem is I just write 3 words and I can't figure out what it was 3 months ago that I wanted us to write about. But if you just write something that comes to your mind during the year, then that becomes a very helpful way of actually having topics to write when the time comes around. Yes, I rarely just sit and now, okay, now I have to glorify Śrīla Prabhupāda. I know one thing, and which is not on this question, is that I've been approached by disciples of other śikṣā-gurus. Would I like to, you know, if it'd be nice if I could write some offering or some words of praise. And while from the personal point of view, I may have found that I've never done it. And I usually write back telling them that I don't think this is necessarily what your guru wants. You should ask them first. It's not the duty of a godbrother to glorify unless that godbrother is in a position of a shiksha, is that he sees his godbrother as a shiksha-guru, or he really wants to. But to put somebody on the spot, then it's not necessary. It's not the right thing. So devotees, I don't think they can ask, but I don't think it's the necessarily correct sadachar for godbrothers to say something unless they want to. I mean, I've had offerings, just the same thing that the disciples gets, you know, and they're also writing like that. Vyāsa-pūjā offerings to Guru Maharaj should be sent in by such and such, and I said, to Guru Maharaj? This is not my Guru Maharaj. So yes, they can be very thoughtless in the way that go about doing it. I think time-wise, enough. So there's a lot to say. I've said more than I was supposed to say, and yes, but we should praise Vaishnavas. This is Bhaktapada Duli, Ara Bhaktapada Jal, Bhakta Bhunkte Avisheshidina Mahajal. So the water that washes Vaishnavas' lotus feet, the dust of their lotus feet, and the remnants of their food. These are 3 essential aspects of spiritual development, spiritual advancement. And Kaviraj Goswami says that one should not forget to observe them. Similarly, Vyāsa-pūjā is also such a opportunity and such a sadhana. Hare Krishna. Jai Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai.